Patch 13.20 seems extremely interesting. They bring many reworks like Sona and multicasters, and I think this is going to shape the meta in a different shape that we see now. I can actually see some Chinese people cooking some comps with Aphelios and Sona to give a lot of attack speed to Aphelios, but I will wait a little bit to make sure like I'm not saying some bullshit stuff. Anyway, here are the 5 comps I will personally play because I believe these are the strongest until we find some other new comps later. By the way, I'm Felipe, I've been challenging multiple sets, and here I'm using Tacter, which is the sponsor of this video, but also a place where I write guides like this one, and you can have access to them for free with the link in the description. So basically this comp I want to show first is Bilgewater Misfortune Reroll. This comp was already good, but it was a little bit too niche to be able to play it properly, at least in Challenger Elo. And one of the reasons why this comp was a little bit too weak is because the mid game was extremely difficult to survive in order to find Misfortune 3 and Nautilus 3, because when you play at level 7, usually that's where you reroll for these units. You also have only 5 Bilgewater, because obviously when you are level 7 you don't have the space to play Gangplank or even to find it, plus 6 other Bilgewater. But here's the thing, is they buffed 5 Bilgewater, making this mid game much easier to play, but also they buffed Nautilus, which is obviously the main tank of your team. I still think that if you want to play this comp at Grandmaster and Challenger, you will need to have a Bilgewater emblem, because if you don't have it you will not be able to cap your board properly. But if you're playing, I don't know, below Master, I think you can play this comp without the Bilgewater emblem, because anyway, the people around you are not going to punish you to not have a Bilgewater emblem. On the other hand, I also expect Nyla to be less contested, so easier to find if you play this comp. So the next comp I want to talk about is Zinedine Zherald. We call that in French. I find it so funny, but if you don't understand the joke, I'm going to show you this clip of Zinedine Zidane, who did something that shouldn't have been done in the finals of Football World Cup. But basically what's fun about this comp is that you have a Rift Herald that just go brrr into the people, but that's not all. Obviously the Rift Herald is not strong enough to carry your whole team. What you need to have next to it is to have, first of all, a lot of Void 3-star units, because they will buff the Rift Herald quite significantly. And what you really want to have is Ionic Spark on Kassadin. It's much better than Static, because the Rift Herald will deal damage at the beginning of the fight. Same for Vel'Koz, so you really want to have magic resistance to be shredded at the first second of the fight. Obviously, if you can make a Rek'Sai 3, which is going to help you have more chance to finish first, but the biggest priority is Kassadin and Vel'Koz, and then Rek'Sai, and then of course if you have, I don't know, Kai'Sa 3, pick it, or Cho'Gath 3 or Malzahar 3, I mean take it, but most of the time it won't happen. The next comp is Twisted Fate Multicaster. This is another comp that already existed previously, but with the huge rework on Sona, I think this comp is going to be really good. Another thing I really like about this comp is the rework on Multicaster. So right now on the website it shows 2 and 4, but during the new patch, because right now I'm recording before the patch, but after the patch, we can say that we will have 2, 3 and 4 Multicaster. This is really important because it helps you at level 6 when we are rerolling for Twisted Fate, Galio and Swain. You can have potentially 3 Multicaster instead of 2 or 4, which can still strengthen your team properly, and you will stabilize your comp much better during the mid game, so you won't have that kind of weird awkward situation where you're not strong until you reach level 8, but at the same time you have to stay level 6 to find your 3-star units, and in the meantime you just lose all the fights. So at least this should solve this issue, and because it solved this issue, I feel like this comp is going to be much stronger, not necessarily because it has a better late game, but rather because it's easier to reach that late game. On the other hand, what's really important also in this comp is that you reroll another multicaster. Ideally, it's Vel'Koz or Sona. I don't know how good Sona is, I think we have to try a little bit, but for sure if you want to play it safe, try to play Vel'Koz 3, because it is going to be a good side carry, so you have enough damage to win the late game fight. The next comp you really want to play is Noxus Domination. This is kind of similar to Bilgewater in the sense that I think you can't play this comp in Grandmaster Challenger lobbies if you don't have a Noxus emblem. If you play below master, I still believe that you can play this comp, but you have to make sure you find a Scion at level 8 so you can activate 7 Noxus. So I still think that you can play this comp. You can kind of force it if you're lower elo, but obviously if you're above, you should already know that this comp is not playable without the emblem. The idea of this comp is to play with Mordekaiser as your main carry, and thanks to the emblem here, you can have a good secondary carry. Ideally, it's Aatrox 2, but if you can't have Aatrox 2, you can still play other units like Fiora, Nyla, this kind of stuff. And finally, the last comp, which is already a comp that exists, but I think this comp is going to be just better now, is Kayle Reroll. So Kayle Reroll is a comp you want to play when you reroll for K3 and Poppy 3 at level 4 and level 5. And after, usually what you want to do is to rush level 9 to have the final form of Kayle so she can deal massive amount of damage and you just win almost every late game fight. But here's the thing, since Sona has been greatly buffed, I do expect to have another win condition, which is next to the one I just said. Because sometimes you just can't push level 9 because somehow you lost too much HP, you don't manage to win fights in the mid game. I mean, that happens, right? So when that happens, you're kind of stuck and you have a bot 4 game because you just can't win anything. I think now you have kind of another option, which is to stay at level 7 and then reroll for Queen 3 and Sona 3, because I think Sona is going to be an excellent unit that you should not sleep on. Obviously, if you have Sona 3, you want to make sure like she gets the Radiant Shojin from Demacia, so she can spam her ability, giving tons of attack speed on Kayle, dealing tons of damage, and also have the Morello applied on almost everyone. I think she's going to be excellent in this comp, but I want to see if that truly is the case. Anyway, these are the 5 comps I would personally play at the beginning of the new patch. Obviously, there are some couple other comps I'm thinking about because Aphelios received a buff, Zone received massive buffs, so I think there's something to do around Gunner and Zone and maybe adding some Sona to make sure they all get more attack speed. I'm not 100% sure and I prefer to observe a little bit more before giving you bad comps, and in case there's something new, obviously I'm going to make a video about it. In the meantime, if you like to receive a newsletter every week where I can give you the 5 best comps from my observations, from my games and from the streams are analyzed, then you have to click on the link in the description because everything is free and every Monday I give you the 5 best comps you can play if you want to win with TFT. Until next video, see you at the top of the ladder and happy climbing.